look, I was just somebody who from a young age was interested in history. I was interested in history before I was interested in the news. I remember when I was about 4 years older, I heard a relative talk about the olden days. And I was just absolutely intrigued by what I remember thinking, gee, I wonder what happened in the olden days. So I was always interested in history. And when I was a teenager, I would usually watch the evening news and read the papers and talk to my parents about politics. And I just sort of came to the view that, you know, in my early 20s, people are often idealistic in their 20s. I think I probably still am idealistic. And I thought, well, look, the party in Australia that most represents the values that have made Western civilization great is the Liberal Party. And those values were basically centered around freedom. So democratic freedom, economic freedom, civil freedom. And I thought that, you know, and the Liberal Party has on balance been a very good political party in Australian history. Most people have got it in their head that this country's been run sort of 50% of the time by Labor and 50% of the time by Liberal. But in fact, since Federation, the Liberal Party and the parties which were the ancestors of the Liberal Party, but basically the same thing, were, you know, have dominated Australian history. And Australia's been a good part, a very successful nation. So the Liberal Party's been very good. But I just feel in the last, look, particularly since John Howard left office, it's really sort of gone downhill. I mean, we're just getting unimpressive members of parliament, people who just are in parliament because they want the perks of office. They're not so much interested in the power. Now, politicians that want power can be good and can be bad. If they want the power to do good things, to dismantle the government, to make the government smaller, that's a good politician who wants power. But the Liberal Party is full of what I call perk hunters. So they're just desperate for perks, and they're desperate for the prestige that being a member of parliament gives them. And so these are people that will not be thinking about what's in the interest of Australia in the next generation or the generation after that. They'll be thinking what's in their own personal interest. And we see that with these modern Liberals in these wealthy suburbs. You know, these very ambitious people got into these what they once thought were very, very safe seats, and now they've got to fight for them, but they've completely capitulated, you know, on the global warming hocus pocus. And so they think, oh, well, you know, a lot of people in my electorate have fell for the hocus pocus, so I've got to pretend I've fallen for it. Now, what they've done is they've fed the crocodile, and now the crocodile's coming for them.
Right. Well, staying on that topic, during your time within the Liberal Party, you did fight for reform. In 2018, you wrote the book To Make the Liberal Party Great Again. Could you please give a quick overview of what the problems was within the party and what you recommended?
Well, the problem that I was trying to overcome is that the Liberal Party, particularly the New South Wales Liberal Party, but also in the other divisions, is dominated by factional bosses, which are not far removed from mafia bosses. Now, I'm not saying that they're criminals that kill people, but they're only one or two rungs below that. They're quite ruthless people. They've got no interest in good policy. And when we say they've got power within the party organisation, the most important thing, all the fighting that goes on with any political party is about who gets to wear the nomination badge on election day, who gets to wear the Liberal Party badge on election day. That's what they're all fighting over, because there's millions of Australians out there which will just blindly vote for the Liberal Party. They won't care who the candidate is. They'll care who's wearing the badge, and they'll just vote for that person. So the key thing is to win the nomination or the pre-selection. Now, I wanted to make it so it was a much more democratic process, so that all the party members in a local seat, so I live in North Sydney, so I would say there's roughly sort of 600-700 people who are members of the Liberal Party in North Sydney, and I would say that all 600-700 of them should have a vote on who they think the best candidate is. Now, that's not the case, and you know, with those reforms, you know, we thought that we had brought in that reform where the lower house candidates were elected by the local members, but then Scott Morrison's come in. He didn't like what the democratic process was producing, so he just went and appointed 12 of his mates. And I think that'll be one of the key, if he does lose the election, that'll be one of the key reasons why, because he got a lot of bad publicity over that. And but the main thing that made the Liberal Party great again was advocating for was that the party leadership, the parliamentary leadership, so that would be Scott Morrison and Dominic Perrottet, they would be elected by all the members of the party. Now that seems radical to most Australians who follow politics, but this is what happens in Canada. This is how Boris Johnson became the Prime Minister. So I was, and we wouldn't end up with people like Malcolm Turnbull and Scott Morrison, who just simply are not true believers. If all the members vote, they're only going to vote for a true believer. Someone like Tony Abbott would have a better chance of winning. In fact, he would easily have beaten Malcolm Turnbull and easily have beaten Scott Morrison. Now, I knew that under Scott Morrison, that these reforms would not be welcomed, and it's difficult to get party reforms through when the party is in government. So I was going to wait him out. I was going to say, okay, Scott Morrison, you can be their Prime Minister for 10 years, and I will wait for you to be not there, and then I will champion these reforms. But then what happened was little thing came along called COVID and COVID extremism and the COVID police state and the COVID debt and then the zero carbon economy. And I just thought, okay, look, the emergency is now. We don't have time to wait for opposition. So we've got to put the political energy into what I've always thought is Australia's best political party, which is the Liberal Democrats, which are a policy purist party. They've got the right policy recipe for this country that is desperately needed right now. And I've been a member of the Liberal Democrats for almost 12 months, and it was the best political decision I've made. And I very much enjoy being with the Liberal Democrats, being with people who are true believers in ideas, which you do very rarely get in the Liberal Party.
Mm-hmm. Well, would you, although the Liberal Democrats are trying to appeal to across the spectrum of voters and support, would it be safe to say that the Liberal Democrats could be seen as the Liberal Party in exile for its disillusioned voters and members?
Well, I quite like that, Daniel. Yes, the Liberal Party in exile. Yes, I mean, look, our policy platform, which we've called our Freedom Manifesto, is very much in line with what John Howard as opposition leader was promoting in the 1980s, what Margaret Thatcher was promoting, what Ronald Reagan was promoting. Probably goes further than what Howard proposing, because we're proposing a flat tax, a flat company tax and a flat income tax, just 20%, nice and simple, keep it simple. But one of the great advantages of a flat tax is, in addition to people being able to save more of their money, which means they've got more of an incentive to work hard, etc., is that it just simplifies things. Now, we have hundreds of thousands of Australians out there, intelligent people called accountants, who spend their whole lives weaving their way through the Income Tax Assessment Act, which is a very big, very, 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 very big document. I think I studied tax law at university, and it was the Income Tax Assessment Act in the mid 1990s was 2 thick volumes. I think it's like probably tripled in size since then. The flat tax, but because of the complexity, means that we have to have intelligent people, lawyers and accountants, working out how to sort of help their clients. Well, these intelligent people should be putting their energy into something far more productive than tax minimisation. So we just say, well, let's minimise it at 20%. And now John Howard wasn't proposing that. The Fight Back package in 1993 with John Hewson, which was a pretty radical document, a pretty good document, but it wasn't proposing a flat tax. In fact, it was proposing a 15% GST. So we are confident the Freedom Manifesto is Australia's greatest federal policy document, at least since the 1930s.